Saturday Night Live Life Recovery Meeting, and we're glad that you're here with us. We are on Facebook and we're on YouTube. We have Facebook with Central Christian Center. We also have Facebook with Saturday Night Live. I think it's actually CCC Saturday Night Live on our Facebook page, and then we have YouTube. We have also on my personal Facebook page, Doug Wilkerson. But it's just trying to get things out, and it's really interesting because we have people that watch all the 5 different platforms, and we have the YouTube, like I said, Doug Wilkerson at Saturday Night Live, and then also CCC on YouTube also. So anyway, we're going to start off with a breathing exercise because I'm better when I do that. So how about if we put our hands on our heart, if you're willing, and we're going to breathe in through our nose and out through our mouth. We're going to inhale twice. We've done this several times, so unless you're new, you know what we're talking about. So inhale once, again, and through our mouth, exhale. Neuroscience says when you breathe in twice like that, it affects your heart and your chemical system. It relaxes your body. And I can't tell you all the neuroscience right now, but that's what they say. So in one more time, again, exhale. Now think of something that you're grateful for, somebody or something that loves you, that you appreciate, or somebody that loves you or something that loves you. I just want you to think about that. You could even think about that, and you could also send them love if it's a person, a situation that needs some love, needs some intervention with God's love. So as we're thinking about that, let's breathe in once, twice, hold if you can, and release through your mouth. One more time. 1, 2, and exhale through your mouth. That's good. That's good. And we're going to go to Paul, and Paul, right, is Paul? No, it's Mr. MC. Yeah, I'm sorry. It'll be going to Zach. So we'll shift over to Zach.
Well, welcome everybody to SNL. We're glad you're here, and appreciate that, Doug. Thank you for the exercise there. And we're going to move along here. So without further ado, please welcome Kate. She's going to read the 12 steps for us. So welcome, Kate.
All right. Step 1, we admitted that we were powerless over our problems and that our lives have become unmanageable. Step 2, we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Step 3, we made a decision to turn our wills and our lives over to the care of God. Step 4, we made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Step 5, we admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Step 6, we were entirely ready to have God remove these defects of character. Step 7, we humbly asked God to remove our shortcomings. Step 8, we made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Step 9, we made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Step 10, we continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. Step 11, we sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God, praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry it out. And step 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to others and to practice these principles in all our affairs.
All right. Thank you, Kate. Appreciate that. That was good. And we're going to move on to the step. And we have Paul doing the step for us tonight. So please welcome Paul.
Good evening, everybody. We're on step 3. Step 3 is we've made a decision to turn our wills and our lives over to the care of God. I'm going to start off with the Bible reading part, which is Psalm 61, and then move along from there. It says, "O God, listen to my cry. Hear my prayer from the ends of the earth. I cry to you for help when my heart is overwhelmed. Lead me to the towering rock of safety, for you are my safe refuge, a fortress where my enemies cannot reach me. Let me live forever in your sanctuary, safe beneath the shelter of your wings. For you have heard my vows, O God. You have given me an inheritance reserved for those who fear you, your name. Add many years to the life of the king. May his years span generations. May he reign under God's protection forever. May your unfailing love and faithfulness watch over him. Then I will sing praises to your name forever as I fulfill my vows each day." When we get to step 3, we've already figured out that we're not doing a really great job on our own. Why am I not center screen, guys? Anyway, we've already figured out we're not doing a great job on our own, and decided that we know somebody else can, and we're to the point we have to do some work, and we call this work in the steps. And we made a decision. We have a choice of what we're going to do. We have to make an active decision to what we're going to do, and to turn our wills and lives over to the care of God. The word care really stepped out big to me today. When you let somebody take care of something, that means you no longer have your hands on it. I'm going to read the thoughts in the step in the step Bible. The thought of turning your will and your life over can be attractive. When we give in to our dependencies and compulsions, aren't we giving control over to another power? That's a really strong statement right there. We think, well, no, I can't let God have control of my life. If I do that, I'll have to do something different. But for some reason, in the middle of addiction or alcoholism or whatever type of addiction we have, it's like, I can give my life over to a bottle, or I can give my life over to a pill, or I can give my life over to a needle, and all those things are going to destroy you. But it's so difficult to say, I'll give my life over to God and let him take care of things for me. Anyway, read that's a powerful statement. When we give in to our dependencies and compulsions, aren't we giving control over to another power? I just never had thought of that, and that's amazing. Aren't we in some way giving up personal responsibility for our life? When we are overwhelmed and want to escape, our addiction can make us feel strong and safe and attractive and powerful and happy. So in a sense, we are very comfortable with the thought of giving up control of our will in our life. We can take steps to change the focus and turn our life over to God instead of reverting to the hiding places of the past. The Apostle Paul touched on this contrast when he said, "Don't be drunk with wine, because that will ruin your life. Instead, be filled with the Holy Spirit." When we're overwhelmed and in need of some kind of escape, we have a new place to turn. King David declared, "The Lord is a shelter for those oppressed, a refuge in times of trouble. Those who know your name trust in you. For you, O Lord, do not abandon those who search for you." David also wrote, "When the ends of the earth, I cry to you for help within my heart." I'm going to start that over. From the ends of the earth, I cry to you for help when my heart is overwhelmed. Lead me to the towering rock of safety, for you are my safe refuge, a fortress where my enemies cannot reach me. We were talking about changing our hiding place from those things that make us feel better, so where there's drugs, alcohol, cutting, anger, those things that we get addicted to keep us from facing reality. We're changing that hiding place from those things to looking to God for your hiding place. And the difference between that is all the addictions ruin your life, and God will always make life better. Anyway, the word care really jumped out today, as I said a while ago. And if you turn your life over to the care of God, that means you really trust Him and believe that He knows how to take care of you. He made you, and He can surely watch over you. I was thinking, we drop our dog off when we leave town, and my daughter takes care of the dog. And I know she knows how to take care of the dog. And I don't have to call and remind her it's time to feed her, it's time to take her for a walk, it's time. I don't have to have my hands on that because I trust that she's going to take care of the dog. She's not going to just let it starve to death or die. And there's no question. The thought never even crosses my mind that she's unable to do that. And I know that God is much more capable of taking care of me because He made me. But God doesn't need our help either. Once we turn our life over to Him, we don't need to sit in the back seat and tell Him, you need to go left, you need to go right, but you need to do this the way I was doing it, because I was doing a really good job. I just asked you to come along and help. Well, the truth is, we're here because we weren't doing a good job. And when we let God drive, we need to let Him drive, because He knows the way. He'll get us where He wants us to be and keep us from going through as many rough roads. And if it is a rough road, He'll protect us all the way through it. And but yeah, just have to trust God's the driver, we're in the back seat, and He knows the way. The workbook has a couple of questions in the giving up control section. And I like this question: where did I get the illusion that I can control other people or my circumstances, job, or life? We think we have things under control, but the fact is we have absolutely no control of anything. We don't know tomorrow if we go into work, if you're not going to have a job, or if you're going to get sick and you won't be able to work to support your family. You don't know if your house is going to get hit by a tornado. You don't know all the things that come along in life, and so you can't control everything. But we have an illusion, and I just love that word illusion, because we walk around thinking everything's okay until it's not, and then we panic. And we can either run to God, which is what we're trying to convince you and trying to do myself always, or we can go back and do the negative things that hurt us and hide from the problem for a little while, but the problem doesn't go away because we went and did whatever the addiction is. But where did you get that illusion? I know as a kid I was always told, pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, do it yourself, take care of yourself. And it sounds good, and we should make every effort to be responsible for our own well-being. But life is just going to happen, and we got to have a better way to deal with life than a bottle or a needle or a pill. And that better way is God. You go to Him for the answers. When I was in the Army, the drill sergeant used to say, take charge of yourself. And we can be responsible. We need to be responsible, but the fact is we're not in charge of ourselves. We're going to have life, and things are going to happen, and we have to deal with them. We don't get to decide each step that we take. Things happen. We get to decide how we're going to handle the things that happen. And the second question is, what stops me from giving up my life so that I can find the life God intends for me? Well, that's where the real control problem comes in, because I want to have control. I think I have, and I want to continue to have control, but in reality, it is just an illusion. You don't know which way the wind's going to blow every day. You don't know if a relationship's going to fall apart. You don't know if a job's going to fall apart. You don't know if you're going to break a leg. Those things we don't know, but anytime something happens, we can do like David said and run and ask God, hide me from this situation. And sometimes hiding you will be making it go away, and sometimes hiding you from the situation will be dragging you through the storm, probably kicking and screaming is the way I do it, but at least I let God drag me in the right direction most of the time. And the other thought, just as kind of a sarcastic note to myself that I put on that, what stops me from giving up my life to God? Because I'm doing so well on my own. And we think that, but that's just not true. So we've figured out step one, I'm not doing very well. Step two, somebody else can do it for me. Step three, let God handle it, and He will. And that's what I got for you tonight. Thank you.
That was good, Paul. Thank you. Appreciate that. And we're going to ask Lisa to come and do the reflection. Please welcome Lisa.
Hello, everybody. So I'm listening to Paul talk and talking about the where did I get the illusion that I can control other people or my circumstances, job or life, you know, and reading on this step at this section, it kind of, we talk about how we cry out when we're overwhelmed, but I'm a visual person. So I like to take things and, you know, picture them into other situations, so it helps me understand things better. And interestingly enough, the thing that came to mind is I remember as a kid playing checkers all the time. I may have dated myself there. Some of you may remember that when it was popular to do that instead of playing video games. But so played checkers all the time, and I can remember I used to play with my dad, which, you know, the ultimate goal was to try to beat him because you just couldn't, you know. And so I got in this habit of, well, if I move here, then he has to go here, and then and just when I thought I had him all figured out, he'd do something completely out of you know, I didn't see it coming. And then I kept thinking, oh, this time I'm going to win, this time I'm going to win. And then he kept surprising me. And so I think about, you know, what gave me this illusion that I can control other people. I think it's a lot about like playing that game. You know, we have things and situations that happen. And even when you're playing chess or checkers with somebody, you know, you get used to the patterns and the routines that they do. And sometimes you start getting this false illusion that you can control what's going to happen. If I do this, then they'll do that. And if they do this, then I'll do that. And sometimes we even try to start playing those scenarios out in our head to control arguments or having a conversation that we may not like, or even sometimes good things. We play it out in our head and try to see how this is going to work out, you know, and we start getting this illusion that and set these unrealistic expectations of these things that they must do, you know. I think a lot about a situation recently where I thought, well, if I do this, this, and this, well, then they're going to do this, this, and this. And I believed, I had hope, and I believed that this person was going, this other entity was going to do exactly what they said they were going to do. And yet, to my surprise, they did not. And that left me very frustrated and angry. And I didn't really know what to do. And so in my own thinking, I decided, well, I'm going to go do something else and I'm going to get completely out of this situation. And so it was with my job. And I even went and applied other places and interviewed at a couple, even got a couple of offers to go elsewhere. And yet their offers were exactly the same offer I was sitting at where I'm at. And it didn't change anything. You And so I was like, okay, what are you trying to tell me, God? And sometimes it's maybe you need to just sit still, because I can remember a time at this same place where I sat there and couldn't figure out why I wanted to quit, and couldn't figure out why I wanted to leave. And then God said, well, it's because you're here. And I kept praying for God to give me a job where I could do the things that I did at SNL, and I could get paid to do it, so I could, I was trying to take care of kids, and then I was trying to go and help talk to people on the phone all night. And I was just like, I'm exhausted. If I could just do this one thing and get paid to do it, then people make appointments, it'd be great. And then God gave me that job right where I was at. It was the job that I prayed for. And through that, I get to help other people. And I realized that I was right where I was supposed to be. I got a call today, or not today, but this week, from a person who called just to let me know that, because I had recommended, I said, hey, why don't you just go trying to apply for disability? You got this stuff going on, and maybe it could help you. And I got a call that this person did follow through with everything they were supposed to do, and they got approved, and they got some help. They had some issues, and so they got everything that they needed plus some. And they called to just let me know that their life had completely changed, and they no longer had to worry about whether they were going to have a home or food. They had everything they needed, and had I not been right where I was at, I wouldn't have been a part of that, and then even today, I struggle because of my health. And, I didn't, when the virus came around, I didn't go anywhere. Still struggle with that, but I stayed safe and stayed home, and I don't go in any places. I don't go to the grocery store. I don't go to the gas station. I didn't go to restaurants. I go to work and I come home, and that was it. Zach was wonderful, and the kids were wonderful, and they would go into the grocery store, but I'd sit in the car and just watch them live life through the windshield, and so I've decided that I was going to try to get out of that and start living life again. And so today I wanted to go try and eat at a restaurant, and when we pulled in, there were people everywhere. 3 or 4 cars followed us in, and I couldn't do it. A matter of fact, I was crying, and Zach had to say that, it's okay. It's okay if we can't do this. It's okay. And but I was upset because I was determined that I was going to do what I wanted to do. But when I gave up and I gave in and let go of what I wanted to do, we ended up going somewhere else. And while we were there, we ran into this amazing little guy with special needs who reached out and just wanted to have some contact. It was the place where we ended up had less people. Parking lot was almost completely empty, but this kid was there with his family, and he came up and he visited with Zach, and he wasn't afraid of Zach, and he just was so touching to our hearts because he wanted to have contact with us, and he did in such a big way. I mean, we had to fight back the tears in the restaurant just to meet with this little kid who just lit up when we said hi, and when we left, I talked to Zach and I said, isn't it amazing how God works? Isn't it amazing? Because if I hadn't have been afraid, if I hadn't have been dealing with this struggle and feeling overwhelmed, we would have never been where we were today. We wouldn't have seen this amazing little family and this young man. But I had to be at that place where I was overwhelmed, and I had to ask for help. And God took me to the help, and then touched me and blessed me in such a way that I had hope again, and that I could do things, and that I could have that connection with people, strangers, something I hadn't had in a long time. And so if you're feeling overwhelmed, or you're trying to control things, and maybe you're still fighting against the current, maybe the answer is just to give up, see where God takes you. it might be a wild river ride, but at the end, you might just find out that it's a much better place than you ever thought you could be. So that's what I have on the reflection. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Lisa. That was good. And I appreciate everybody that shared tonight. And without further ado, we're going to welcome Doug. So please welcome Doug, everyone.
Hello, everybody. Glad you're all here, and thank you, Lisa, for your comments. And I want to I looked up something I want to share here about this topic we're talking about right here about control, and I really don't know even how I got to it, but I asked a question about the difference between being organized and being controlled, and I think our desire has always been that, and we've been pushed to be organized, and I think that is a healthy approach to life, to be organized. But to be controlling is an overreach, and this is the definitions. The difference between being organized and being controlled. Organization is about creating an environment, workplace, or home where structure is provided and responsibility is installed. I thought that was good. Control is about creating perfection to protect our insecurity. What do you think about that? We often, that's what a lot of control is. If you really stop and think about it, it's trying to protect our insecurity. And so, in times past, particularly when we talked about this step and we talked about this subject, it always bothered me to some degree, if you know what I mean. And I think this definition really helps. The difference between being organized and being controlled is organization is about creating an environment or workplace or home where structure is provided and responsibility is installed. I think that's really good. Control is about creating perfection to protect our own insecurity. So
I may resemble that remark.
I think we all could, right, Lisa?
It's okay to agree with me, Doug.
So anybody have any comments about what's been shared here today? Any input from anyone? Okay, Tommy, let's see if we can get to you.
When you were saying about being, I gotta say this right, I'm not saying it right in my head. Organized.
Yes.
And control. I've recently had two situations come up in my life that have kind of affected my control of what I thought where I was in control of things, but now you've made it clear that those parts that I thought that I was in control of, I was just organized. And it was a proper part of my functioning life to be an adult and responsible in the community and stuff. So I was wondering, I don't know, it's hard to say this. When some things like those things happen that kind of get just thrown in like a monkey wrench, and you have to not take back that control, that throws you back to step 2, where you gotta be like, well, I'm in insanity, I mean, I don't know if this makes sense, but it does to me. Go ahead.
Well, I was distracted here with some other things going on, but your insanity comment, would you expound on that, please?
Well, it's like your life is going. You're going. You're working your steps. We're in step 3. You're learning about, like, you're organized. You're learning about the control that you may have over things that's maybe positive control, opposed to the negative control that you need to get out of your way. And then something gets thrown in that kind of interrupts the organization. Can't say that word today for some reason. How organized you are in life, and then you try to take control of the situation. You don't let God be God, and God do what God can do to fix it. And then in doing that, where you take the control, try to take control of the situation, you don't let God work it out for you. You go back to your insanity.
Yeah, when you take over control, I agree with you. That's when you go into acting out insanity, and seeing this definition of organization is about creating an environment, okay, whether it's workplace or home or wherever, where structure is provided. Now, that's not rigidness, okay? That's just structure, and so that people, so that we can find, we're able to kind of put boundaries out there where people can kind of find their way. It's guidance, but not control. All right, does that make sense?
Yes.
And that we have this responsibility, and we want to install responsibility to people. We want them to take on their own burdens. We want them to carry their own load to help them to grow. Not just because I don't want to carry it, because we do carry burdens for a lot of people, but the fact of it is, they don't grow and mature until they start taking on some of their own burdens and start to carry them and process them and work through them. Anything else, Tommy?
I'm good for
Okay. Anybody else have any other comments?
I just had a quick thought. Can everybody hear me okay? Because it sounds weird in my headphones.
I can hear you well.
Okay. So I think sometimes we don't realize how far we've come, and we can feel like it's just a short trip to be right back where we were. And so I guess I just want to say, Tommy, that I know we need to be careful and not think that we're further along than what we are, but I think that most folks' tendency is to minimize how far we've come. And so I just want to encourage you that maybe trust yourself a little bit. And I'm not saying lie to yourself. I mean, we all know when we're lying to ourselves.
Right.
If for me to think I can go to a bar and have a drink, I'm lying to myself.
Right.
And I've got 15 plus years, but I'm still not going to go do that. I mean, it was interesting. Something happened tonight. We were at dinner, like Lisa was talking, and I was drinking Mountain Dew, and I was focused on my phone doing something and talking to Lisa, and the waitress, we're a Mexican restaurant, and so there's kind of a language barrier, and the waitress brought a glass and it looked green. It was the same color as Mountain Dew, and she set it down, and I said, "Thank you." And Macy said, "Hey, Dad, that isn't Mountain Dew. Did you, and you didn't order a margarita?" And I said, "What?" And And I looked behind the glass because she kind of set it behind my glass. And she goes, "That's got salt around the rim." And I said, "Oh, okay, well, that ain't mine." So I hollered at her because she got about 8 or 10 feet away. And I said, "Hey, that ain't mine." And she goes, she was kind of startled because I was very quick. Not that I was going to drink it, but I was very quick because that's just what I do. I'm just not around it. It's not like I'm gonna down it if it's within 10 feet of me, but I don't like it. I don't want it around me. It ruined my life. It's it's the enemy. Okay. So I said, "I didn't order that. I don't drink." And I said it louder than I wanted to. And there were some people around me that kind of looked at me. And that's okay. I don't care that they looked at me, but I mean, I don't drink, man. That ain't mine. And so and it wasn't that I was trying to be any way. I was just saying, wrong table, so, but it looked the same color. The glass was just slightly smaller. It was even the same shape. It was, it had the same logo on it and everything. It was just the same. It was just slightly smaller. And so, and the rim was salted. Yeah. But, the point is that I need to be quiet, but the point is that I think sometimes we need to be careful that we need to recognize our growth. We need to count the small victories. And I heard Jesse Duplantis is one of my favorite evangelists. He's also a pastor, whatever. But one of his sayings, he's from Louisiana. He says, "You need to trust the God that trusts you," and that's true. And so, don't discredit yourself. Know your limits. Be honest with yourself. Don't lie to yourself. But don't think that you're just going to fall off the cliff every time something happens. It's good to be cautious, but you came a long way.
Yeah.
And it's okay. It's okay to acknowledge your growth. That doesn't mean you put yourself at risk. Like, I've been sober for a long, long time, but I'm still not going to go into the bar. So that's all I had.
Anybody else have any comments? Did you say something, Tommy? Okay. All right. John, did you have anything you wanted to share? All right. Lisa, anything else you'd like to add?
Nope, I'm all good.
And Paul, anything before we go on? And Kate, I don't see her, but she's probably around, so. Okay, well, my topic, of course, tonight's topic is step 3. As Paul has already talked about, we made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God. And that's a big chore for most of us. But it's a very, very beneficial chore, and that's what we're talking about by giving up control. Because I think the definition I read a while ago about organization versus control, I think is very beneficial and needful, and that we need to recognize how that works in our life, and how we may have a real, depending on our personality makeup. How about that, Lisa? You like that terminology? Depending on our personality makeup and or our life situations that maybe we've been in, maybe possibly different traumas or abuse, trying to keep ourselves safe or feeling the need to keep others safe. We may have some conscious and unconscious belief systems that control us or push us around. So, but my what I want to talk about tonight is, I looked up something I wanted to share, and that is 4 simple ways to let go of control. How about that? 4 simple ways to let go of control. And You know, a lot of addicts, they deny those that are addicted to something, and there's just about all of us are addicted to something, whether you realize it or not. And so if you're addicted, then you're an addict, okay? Because we usually use that word for reference of a particular segment, but that's not necessarily so, even though we may use that jargon that way. But one of the most common ways that people with addictions, they deny their problem by claiming claims of control. I got control, okay? I know what I'm doing. Have you ever heard that one before? I can stop anytime I want, okay? I don't have a problem. How about that one? If you got to say you don't have a problem, you may have a problem. Just a thought, okay? You know, you may resist too much, okay?
My version usually sounds like I'm fine, which is not true. I'm not fine. If I say that, I'm not fine.
So anyway, so 4 simple ways to let go of control. Letting go of control is about loosening our grip. And I thought that was such good terminology. This is not my terminology. This is just some research that I got. Letting go of control is about loosening our grip, allowing ourselves to be supported. I wanted that to kind of soak in, allowing ourselves to be supported. And that, for some of us, that's pretty tough. And to trust that things will turn out as they are meant to. Boy, there's a part of our brain sometimes it goes on tilt, okay? It'll turn out because I make it turn out is oftentimes our belief system, okay? But we're talking about letting go and stop trying to force the universe to line up to your plan, your will. And by the way, how's that working out for you? Probably not too well. But we're glad you're here tonight, okay? So we're going to talk about these 4 simple ways to let go of control. And I'm going to go back to a similar question that Paul read earlier, but this was in this material. It says, what causes us to be controlling? Okay, this is what they say. There are many reasons, beliefs, and emotions that lead us to hold on tight and feel the need to control others, situations, circumstances, money, communication, food, workflow, details, our environment, okay, and various other very important details in our lives. We just clamp down. Is that too much? Those are not my words. That's right off the paper there. So, however, here are 3 things. Okay, these are not the 4 things. This is another 3 things that are usually beneath our control tendencies. Are you interested? Okay. All right. So here are the 3 things. The first one is fear. Second one is unworthiness. Okay. Third one is lack of trust. If I didn't hit you on one of them, and probably all of them, you know, you're probably not ticking, right? So because we have that strong tendency to try to control, and we're talking about trying to loosen our grip on things, and you can't do it all at once, okay? But we're talking about the desire is to choose to loosen our grip. That's a healthy choice, and that's something that we have to practice. We practice, you know, squeezing our grip, okay? and forcing things. So there's another way, and that's what we're talking about here. We fear, we worry about things won't turn out. I understand. We worry about that. Let me ask you a question. Has worry ever fixed anything? I think that's a good question. Has worry ever fixed anything? You know, we're afraid we're going to get hurt. Yeah, chances are there's a possibility we're going to get hurt. Okay. Bad things are going to happen, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that's what the fear is about. And actually, we're thinking about all the bad things that may happen. And how does that organize your life? You're focused on the bad and not on the good. You're not looking at the possibilities of things that can happen. You're looking at only the things that can't happen. And if your thoughts have power, okay, if our thoughts have power, what are we doing to ourselves? Right? You know, a little quick addition here. If our thoughts have power, well, has anybody here ever had any stress? What creates your stress? It's usually having to do about what you're thinking about. So your thoughts are affecting you, and they're affecting you to have stress. And when you have stress, it can mount up and cause some physiological effects in your body. Isn't that true? So, do our thoughts have power? If they do, we need to do what Romans 12 says, be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of our mind. We need to focus on what we want to think on so that we can have more of what we really want instead of getting more of what we're afraid of. Let's go on. Unworthiness. We don't feel as though we deserve support. You know, I don't deserve support or help or for anything that should or could go my way. I don't deserve it. Now, if our thoughts do have power, what are we doing to ourselves? You say, well, I just believe that. Well, what's your evidence? And if you're interested in turning it around, because we're talking about loosening our grip, opening our hand up a little bit to begin to start down a new mental, emotional pathway. Is this okay? Is this okay? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Okay, all right. And so the last one is lack of trust. We're scared to let go. We're scared to count on others. Lisa kind of touched on that a little bit. Okay, we're afraid that people are going to let us down. Yeah, they're going to let us down. That's reality. But we also we have to be able to do what that definition said, and that is that we are willing to provide some structure and some responsibility, that we install some responsibility to them, give them a chance. Okay. They can't grow until they have an opportunity, just like you and me, right? So we have a lack of fear, and we're afraid that things won't work out. So we have to manage every aspect of our situation, our relationship, and all of our conversations. Now, I know nobody that I'm talking to directly does any of that, but you know people that do, right? And how does that affect their life? Okay. All right. Next item. What does being controlling cost us? Okay, we haven't got to the 4 things yet, but what does being controlling cost us? Wouldn't it be interesting to know what it costs us being controlling? That can give us some evidence of what we don't want, okay? Because it costs us so much that there's a huge cost associated to being in control, right? There's a huge. All right, some things. The cost is less joy, less peace, less freedom, less energy, less creativity, less support, less ease or comfort or peace, okay? Less connection, controlling, we control the relationship that's supposed to make it better, but does it really make things better? Does it create a better connection? And the last one here is it costs love. So how do we expand our capacity to let go of controlling? That's the next topic. How do we do that? And one of the main ways, this is probably I think all this is important, but this next statement is very important. And we have to be compassionate towards ourselves. Hey, we didn't intentionally fall into this trap, this behavior, even this addiction, okay? We were trying to survive, and I know it's not the same for absolutely for everybody, but generally speaking, a lot of times it was a way of coping, surviving, and controlling. Would it be all right for me to say is another form of addiction? Okay, all right. I wasn't for sure if we was ready for that one yet. So how can we expand our capacity? I like that statement. How can we expand our capacity to let go of control? We need to have compassion towards ourselves. Okay, man, when we're hard on ourselves or hate ourselves or beat up on ourselves, whether you mean to or not, you're going to treat other people the same way, even if you don't want to. Scripture says, love thy neighbor as thyself. We need to give ourselves compassion. We need to treat ourselves like somebody that we care about, that's important to us. Okay? We need to do that to ourselves. We need to be our best friend. And I know in my earlier days, I bought into that belief, even though I wasn't practicing it very much, okay? I didn't do what I chose to believe, but by working through my process, I eventually was able to do more of what I decided I was going to believe, and that was love myself and treat myself as my best friend, because I had all kinds of stuff in here. I had to loosen up my grip on myself, my own controlling nature of me, having to do with self-punishment and hatred and all of that. So, and if we can do that, it is a keyword process. So if we can have compassion and we allow the process to work in us, healing takes time, physical healing takes time, emotional healing takes time, psychological takes time, and healing is painful. It's a process. And as we go through that, it becomes easier as we go along. And the rest of the story is, most of us have been trained directly or indirectly to be this in control, okay? And we thought they were, they were the orders, okay? That's how you are better in life, okay? It's an irrational belief, but we still believed it. We bought into it. So we were doing all we could do, and it was just tearing us up. Isn't that the truth? Yes, it is. Stern says we need to have much pondering, and which is true. Think about it. And so what we have to do is we have to turn this thing around, and we have to enlarge our capacity to let go, and it is a process. And as we do that, allowing ourselves to control less, because we've seen it as a survival mechanism for us and as other. But as we do that, we realize that we have to play our part. Yes, I agree with that. But at the same time, we're not the savior. And God is there to fill those gaps if we'll give him a chance. I know that may be a tough statement for some of you, but I still believe it. All right, so here are the four things that the four simple ways to let go of control. The first one is be honest with yourself. That's the first simple way of letting go, is being honest with yourself. I mean, we can fool people. See, what was that old saying? I read it again. We can fool some of the people. We can fool all the people some of the time, and we can fool some of the people all the time, but we can't fool all the people all the time. I hope I said that correctly. And I think Abraham Lincoln is one that said that. And if I didn't say it correctly, I didn't have it down on notes. So Kate, forgive me if I didn't do that right. So, but the fact of it is, we try to fool other people, we try to fool ourselves, we try to fool God. So we just need to be honest with ourselves and make an authentic assessment about our own controlling nature. Remember, when you do an assessment, or you evaluate yourself, you need to know where you're at so that you know where you need to go. So you need to assess yourself. So you need to act with empathy and honesty. Take a look at where and how and why you hold on so tight to control. There's a reason why. And when you know that reason, ask yourself a question. Do I need to do that? Is that really in my best interest? Is that what I really want to see in my life? That control, does it push people away or does it bring people in? Yeah, you may imprison some people, but the fact of it is, most of the time, well, the old statement is people vote with their feet. They'll leave when they get a chance. So, number two, ask yourself, am I willing to let go? That's great. Questions are so important. And you said, well, why do I need to ask myself a question? Because when you ask yourself a question, you're using a different part of your brain, and it affects you cognitively, and you begin to stir things up. Did you know your right hemisphere and your left hemisphere, researchers say they can have totally different personalities? I know that sounds weird. Okay. And so when we ask ourselves this question, am I willing to let go of control? You may say, no, I'm not. No, not me. I've lived this way 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 years, whatever the case may be. It's a sick system, but that's the only one I know. So therefore, I'm not changing. Okay. How would I live if I try to relocate into a different system? Well, how's your life working out for you? Just a question. I didn't say you had to do anything. we're just talking about some simple ways to let go, if you want to let go. But the first thing you have to do is be willing to ask yourself a question. Number 3 of the 4 things, and that is consider who can support you. Because we can't do recovery alone. Even in the church, Paul spoke to us about the different ministerial helps to be able to do different functions to help us, to minister to us. But we have all kinds of different helps in different places that people are there to help us. But to allow help to help us, we have to be willing to get that support. How many times, now I know none of us have ever done this. That's a little facetious there. Sarcasm. Has ever just isolated and shut down, blocked everybody out, not returned phone calls or texts, or we avoid, deny, and hide, and we don't allow ourselves to have any support, and it's really hard. We can't do it alone. We need to allow that support to go, and a lot of us have people around us. I believe God puts people around us to help us. And as Zach says, it may not be the people that we think that we want, but it's the people we need. And so we have to allow ourselves to be open and get this support. And ironically, we oftentimes don't want to ask for help because we think, well, it'll make me feel weak or it'll make me look needy, and I don't want to be that there. But you like helping people when they ask you, and people like helping you if you let them help you. Okay. Next one, the 4th one, the last one. Yay, last one. So the 4th one is surrender. Okay. This is the bottom line of letting go. Okay. Surrendering. Okay. Surrendering. Surrendering doesn't mean giving up or not caring. It's not about giving up and not caring. In fact, surrendering, I believe this to be true. Surrendering is harder than what you're doing right now by controlling. Surrendering is harder than not surrendering. Okay. Now, that's just a thought. So what we need to do is be willing to give up this control and surrender. And that means we have to begin to trust and allow things to take care of us, okay, and allow people to be a part of us. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to be, totally manipulated or controlled by other people. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about this surrender, and I know it's hard in the beginning, but the fact of it is, you have to ask you, do I like myself better by not surrendering and working the control angle, or being willing to surrender and allow God to have control? I know oftentimes he doesn't do things the way you want him to, but the fact of it is, it's less stressful for you. And the rest of the story is, usually works out better than what your plan was kind of projected on. So, and so we need to trust. We need to allow people to help us. And by this process, we have to trust something. Okay. When what Paul said earlier out of our literature was that we already give our will and our lives over to something, whether it's drugs or alcohol or behaviors or something. we escape into something, possibly to numb out or to survive. So we can do it, but it's usually in an unhealthy way. And we're talking about trying to do it in a healthy way. So what we have to do is we need to surrender to God or to the universal intelligence, okay, or whatever, your higher power. I believe that higher power is God, of course, but we have to surrender to anything, and we have to surrender to something, and we do. Okay, we need to say that correctly. We do surrender to something. We just need to make it healthy. Okay, does that make sense? And so what we have to do is we have to learn to loosen our grip. And I know it's hard, but we just have. I remember splitting wood when I was younger, and if you gripped that sledge or that splitting maul too tight, and you hit a hard piece of wood that it just bounces, man, it can affect you. But if there's just a place in there that you can loosen up your grip, and it doesn't shock your hand. I mean, you don't get the full shock. Does that make sense? Probably many of you know what I'm talking about. And the same with other applications along that line. So we have to learn how to loosen up our grip. And however, as we practice this and expand our capacity to let go, we will be able to release and transform a good amount of unnecessary stress, worry, anxiety from our lives, our work, and our relationships. What do you think about that? I had this from last week, but it applied for last week, but I think it fits in here because we were talking about you have to trust something, and this is a quote from Steve Jobs on life, and from what I understand, it was one of his last talks that he gave before he passed away. And this is what he said, and many of you probably know it's life, connect the dots of the past. He says this: you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect those looking backward. And you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in the future. I think that's very powerful. He goes on and says, you have to trust in something. This is Steve Jobs talking here. Okay. You have to trust in something. He said some things, like I said a while ago, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. Okay. I believe trusting in God would be one of the better ones. This approach, this is his final statement. He says, this approach has never let me down, and it has made all the difference in my life. Steve Jobs. He had, from what I understand, he had some things turn around, spiritually speaking, before he did pass away. But the fact of it is, people all the time, I believe everywhere, all over the world, use a similar system that intuition, which is part of our spirit, part of our spirit that God has given us to help us to navigate through life, because God wants good things for us. And if I can get you to think about anything, that you will think about stop sabotaging your life with your self-hatred, bitterness, anger. I know may have been hurt. Things may have not worked out the way you wanted them to, or you wish they would have. But the fact of it is, I taught on Viktor Frankl in my Thursday live, and that one statement that he said just gets me. And he was talking about finding beauty, and he said that to survive, you have to find beauty. And he got a bowl of dirty, cold water with a fish head floating in it, which was his daily sustenance, was his daily meal for that day. And he said, I had to find beauty in it, and I did. I had to find beauty in it to survive. And so if we can find beauty in our life, it's an attitude adjustment. But the one that will benefit is you and everybody around you and everybody around them. Okay, because when we change, we affect those around us, and that affects our community, that affects our world. And I think that's all I got to say about that. So may the Lord bless you and keep you, and may his face shine upon you and give you his peace. Till next time, hey, I want you guys to take care of yourself. I'm not here to try to tell you what to do. I'm just asking you maybe to ask yourself some questions. Think about it. See what's in your best interest. Okay? If what you're doing is not working out for you very well, then stop doing what you're doing and try something else. Okay? I'm going to go back to Zach. And of course, if anybody has any comments, Zach, you can go from there. So you got it.
All right. Thank you, Doug. Did anybody have any comments they wanted to share or not add before we go? I can't see everybody here. Okay, I don't see anybody. Well, it was good tonight. I appreciate everybody, and I guess we're gonna sign out for this evening. We're glad you're here. If you join us tonight or later on, leave us a comment or something. We always appreciate that, and we care about you. So take care of yourself. You're important to us, and we love you. We'll see you next week.
Paul, did you have something?
No, just popping back in.
All right. Well, I'm glad you did. Hey, and I had a lot of comments on my Facebook Live. I couldn't answer all of them. I tried in between everything else. And but anyway, I thanks for everybody participating and your comments. So, all right. We're signing off. Till next time, take care of yourself. Make healthy choices.